Thank you, Gary. Hello, welcome to the People's United Bank post-game show. I'm Justine Ward alongside Vin Parisi as UConn improves to 5-1 on the season as they defeat New Hampshire 91-66. Another high point total for UConn. In fact, this is their third game this season with 90 or more points, which they didn't do at all last year, Vin. They scored at least 80 in 5 of 6. Another game where 5 players had double figures. You can see the breakdown there. What does it tell you, Vin, about what's working well for this team offensively?
Yeah, I mean, just the offensive numbers are terrific. I mean, they broke 80 4 times in 32 games last season. And you mentioned the production that they've had so far. I think it's the perimeter depth and the fact that Dan Hurley has different guys stepping up on different nights. And it's guys that aren't necessarily named Jalen Adams. So I think when you compound that, the fact that guys are improving, guys are settling in, guys are getting more comfortable in the Dan Hurley way, I think that's going to bode well moving forward.
And heading into this, in the pregame show, you said we're going to be watching the bigs in this one. We know Josh Carlton had a big breakout game in the season opener. He had 17 points in this game, 7 of 8 from the floor, active from the get-go. What was different about him today? I
thought Carlton and all the bigs were just very active, and I like the fact that it came down to zone offense and not settling on the perimeter. A lot of times 2-3 zones make you settle for deep three-point shots. Those bigs got in there. They challenged the teeth of the New Hampshire zone. Carlton was comfortable with his back to the basket, and I like the fact that the bigs were running and the guards are repaying the big guys for running. And I think moving forward, as much as this is a perimeter-oriented club, in college basketball at a high level, at the level that Dan Hurley wants the squad to be at, you got to have bigs produce. And you look back at the Cornell game, Justine, and 71 of the 90 points was the guards. Tonight, 34 points from the bigs up front, over 1/3 of the team offense. So that's good production by the bigs in the front line.
We know Dan Hurley often likes to run 4 guards, but multiple bigs were contributing here. Why is that important, especially as you look at somebody like Tyler Polley?
Oh, and Polley's a nice one because he does things that an Eric Cobb and some of the other bigs don't do, is that they could face you up. He has a nice three-point stroke, 55% from behind the arc last year, and he adds a different dimension to this crew. So now you're going against UConn. Picture this. You have to guard 3 or 4 three-point shooters on the perimeter, and now your bigs got to come out and guard Polley 25, 30 feet from the paint. So it's just one more outside threat that Dan Hurley has. He needs him to do more of that. Be active on the offensive glass and clean up the guards' misses.
They were pretty active all over the floor today. What you like about how aggressive they were in the paint? A lot of the points came from in the lane.
In the lane, and not just the bigs. A lot of guards getting a lot of action in the paint. A lot of times in college hoops, we think points in the paint, we think of post feeding, we think of offensive rebounds. Guards could get into the paint as well, whether it's dribble penetration, layups in transition. Guards can produce inside. It goes back to what we talked about in the pregame show of that aggressive 4-guard offense for Dan Hurley. He wants the guards to get in there just like the big fellas.
Let's go back to the Excel Center where Gary Apple is going to give us his thoughts. Hey, Gary.
All right, Justine and Vin, we thank you both. I love the fact they played tremendous defense today. We spoke about this outside of the broadcast. They just come at you in waves. They held New Hampshire to 37% shooting and 27% from beyond the arc. It really is, Ted, unrelenting.
Yeah, it really is. It's 94 feet. It's going to contest every single dribble, every single pass. They're doing a great job. You're not going to get anything open, and you got to take advantage of it when that happens, but it's a balanced team. It is depth that comes in. It starts with your guard pressure. It's bigs that are able to defend the post, get to help, protect at the rim. They're really doing a great job, and it's really feeding their offense as well.
It's not easy to come into a new job, which is what Dan Hurley has done here, and try and turn this around as quickly as he has. The fact that they have bought in, right? The fact that they have bought in from the defensive side. Everybody wants to score. They put 11 guys in the score book today, but buying in from a defensive standpoint, I think that speaks volumes about Dan and his connection to this team.
No question. It's resonated with them. They're hungry. They want to be great. UConn is expected to be at the top of college basketball year in, year out. These players, they want that. So they've really listened, they've bought in, and they've really come to trust their teammates on both ends of the court, on the defensive end, on the offensive end, as that trust continues to build and trust in the system, and they're having joy in how they're playing, joy in winning right now, and they're going back to practice every single day just trying to get better. But it's really been a nice sequence to start the season, and you'll see this team get better December, January, all the way through. There's a lot they still have to work on, but they're certainly off to a great start.
Well, they got production from their bigs in Carlton and Cobb in today's win over New Hampshire, but there is an X factor here, and that's Tyler Polley, because he can score from so many different places on the floor. What is the dimension that he gives you?
Well, Polley is a big that can stretch you out some. So, he's obviously been athletic on the offensive glass, defensive glass, been able to help on the defensive end. But to be able to step out on the perimeter and knock down jump shots, it really keeps the floor spread. And when the floor is spread for these UConn guards, Al Tariq and Christian Vital and Jalen Adams, there's a lot of space for them to get to the basket. Yep. Now you have Carlton down there, posting up and taking some space as well, and just becoming a finisher. He's able to really get himself to the rim easily. These guards are able to dish it off, but they're all looking for each other. They're making that extra pass. The ball's not sticking, as Danny said, as much, and that's something they'll continue to work on throughout the year.
Well, certainly a dominant win for Connecticut. We'll see you back on Tuesday night as they take on UMass Lowell. For Ted, I'm Gary. Let's send it back to Justine and Vin in the studio in New York, guys.
Thank you, Gary and Ted, for your thoughts there. And Vin, we talked a lot about the offense a little bit ago. We haven't really touched on the defense. What did you see on that end of the floor today?
A smothering defensive play, Justine. 37% from the field from New Hampshire. More importantly, 26% three-point shooting for New Hampshire. So that means not only are you pressuring and forcing tough shots, you're shutting down the perimeter as well. And I love the fact that if you're going to talk defense, we need to talk defensive backboards. I love the fact that they out-rebounded New Hampshire by 14. And when Christian Vital is your leading rebounder on the defensive backboards, that just shows you that this mentality has changed on this end.
And Ted and Gary talked about the players really buying into what Dan Hurley is establishing. It's something really small, but you saw Jalen Adams for the second game come up behind his coach. It shows you that there's some chemistry there. What kind of relationship are you sensing already, only 6 games in, between Hurley and this team?
We talked in the pregame show about all of the similarities between Dan Hurley and his dad. And as much as he has the tough intensity, fiery style on the sidelines as the Hall of Famer Bob Hurley Sr., as much as he pushes his kids at every single stop he's been at, he also has a great relationship with them. You see the kids, that's not fake. If the players didn't like him, they'd head into the locker room. You see it all the time, that they enjoy being around him. He's able to bond and connect with these guys. And I'll tell you what, when you go to a UConn practice, it is not your routine high-level Division I college basketball practice. These guys are getting after it. The intensity is at another level. And week by week, we start to see the philosophy change here on the floor for the Huskies.
And you see the results, don't you,
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah.
All right, well, coming up next, we'll have full game highlights. You'll hear from Christian Vital, and you'll hear from the head coach. We are just getting started. Stay with us.
The UConn men's basketball postgame show is presented by
New Hampshire and UConn, Dan Hurley and crew looking for their 5th win of the season. Early first half, UConn up 1 in transition. Jalen Adams with a bounce pass to Josh Carlton for the dunk, 8-5 Huskies. UConn now up 7. Nice passing here. Christian Vital up strong here. Gets the bucket and 1. Hurts his hand too, though, Ben.
Yeah, he did. He came out for a few minutes, but really strong move. 2 feet in the paint, the little guy putting it down like a post player.
Later on in the half, UConn now leading by 10. Carlton misses the shot here, gets his own rebound, is persistent, gets the short floater to fall here, 29-17 Huskies. Moments later, Al Tariq Gilbert, nice pass to Tyler Polley for the layup, 33-23 Huskies. Same score, Vital back in, as you said, misses the shot. Jalen Adams there for the putback, 35-23 UConn. Then Adams takes it himself. Gets the circus shot here to go.
Now, for most guys, this would be luck, but this is one of the things Jalen Adams is known for, finishing high degree of difficulty shots around the cup.
Huskies take a 19-point lead into the half. Adams kept it going in the second half, drives here, gets the tough bucket in the lane. He's got good footwork. Huskies up 20. Later on, Gilbert almost loses the ball here, stays with it, drives. Nice layup here, Vin.
Woo. But the spin by Al Tariq, that time looked like he was going to maybe get called for traveling. I don't know, a little bit of a turnover. Guards finishing tough ones today for Dan Hurley.
UConn up 23. Adams with the crossover, drives, gets the scoop, continues to lead for this team. He had 17 points. Huskies up big. Vital with the steal here. takes it in himself in transition. Nice move to the hoop for the land. Vitale with double-double, 14 points and 10 boards. Huskies win 91-66. UConn had 5 players in double figures. Leading the way were Jalen Adams and Josh Carlton, who had 17 apiece. Christian Vitale was crucial as well, 14 points and 10 boards, and he's standing by with our Maria Marino.
Christian, a double-double today, the third of your career. What was working so well for you?
Just trying to find, the right spots to be at on the court, just trying to do the next right thing, try to help my teammates out as much as I could, and well, I was able to do that today.
After 19 points in the last game, was it important for you to come up big again today with a nice contribution?
Definitely. I feel like, every time I step on the floor, with this team, that my contribution is going to mean a lot, to the team. So I just try to stay prepared as much as possible and just try to keep being in the right places so I can help the team get as many wins as possible.
Well, what does a win like this do for the overall confidence of the team?
It just shows us that we did what we were supposed to do. They were a good team, but we played the way UConn was supposed to play today. And when we do that, we get to win like this. So it just feels good that everyone got to contribute, and now we're on to the next one.
Well, coming into today, you and I spoke about all the different guards on this team and the ability for them to do different things. How was that dynamic today?
It was great. Jalen getting assists, and rebounds. Taryn getting assists and rebounds. Altari getting assists and rebounds. Myself, tell me I got the double-double. So, it's just everyone's just trying to, play their part, just contribute as much as possible. And when we do that all together, it's pretty hard to stop us.
All right, CV, good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, thank you. Christian Vitale with his first double-double of the season, playing through a hand injury. Vin, what did you make of his toughness in this game?
I'll tell you what, this kid is scrappy, and this is why Dan Hurley says no matter how much shot selection, and at times I want him to calm down, and he makes me a little bit crazy with some of the shots he takes, you need to have him on the floor because he plays so hard. And when you have Vitale getting a double-double, when you have an undersized guard like this, getting it done and doing the little things, and I'll tell you what, when you have a guard play 28 minutes and only turn the basketball over twice, that's another thing that's going to go over real well with the coaching staff.
And you mentioned it. We talked a lot about pregame, about his shot selection. He was 4 for 10 from the floor. How can he continue to improve in that regard?
Shot selection is always, it's always work in motion. It's always a project. You have to go back to the film tomorrow and sit and watch it with the coaching staff. I think sometimes he still settles a little bit on the perimeter. Granted, they saw a lot of zone here today. I think that if you play 28 minutes, Dan Hurley probably wants him to get more than 5 free throw attempts. But, Christian Vitale is going to be key to this team's success. Beyond Jalen Adams and Terrence Smith and all of the guys that we've talked about, he complements and he is the motor that Dan Hurley loves. He's always going to be one of the top guys in the minutes department, so Vitale's production is going to be something we always keep an eye on.
Well, somebody's shot selection is doing pretty well. That's Jalen Adams. He was 8 of 10 shooting. How does he continue to set the example for this team? Yeah,
we talked at the top about Dan Hurley wanting him to increase his shot attempts and be more aggressive when the ball is in his hands. You can't get more efficient than 8 for 10. And listen, today was not going to be one of those days where he shot the ball 19 to 20 times. New Hampshire tried to control tempo. I thought the 2-3 zone neutralized, took the ball out of his hands sometimes. But he could get shot attempts in this way. He could be active when he doesn't have the ball. He could push it in transition. He is deadly when he has that high pick-and-roll ball screen at the top of the key. And as we've seen multiple times, not only this season but throughout his career, he's a tough shot maker around the rim.
And Vin, we talked pregame about his maturity. How does he continue to display that maturity and discipline on the floor?
By staying consistent and bringing it every day. And really, let's be honest, bringing it when we're not watching. I mean, Danny Hurley has already suspended him for off the court or, for not living up to a certain level, not for anything that the fans or we saw between the lines playing basketball. So he wants his leadership every single day on the practice floor, off the floor and, of course, in between the lines when they play 94 feet of Huskies basketball.
It was a team effort today as the Huskies win 91-66. Coming up on the People's United Bank post-game show, we're going to hear from the coach, Dan Hurley, after a strong performance from his bigs, including Josh Carlton. But before we go to break, let's see who's lighting up the boards presented by Connecticut Lighting Centers. Josh Carlton with 6 boards, but Christian Vital leading the way with 10. Here's today's drive of the game presented by Nissan. Jalen Adams with the slick crossover takes it to the basket and scoops it in. One of many nice moves to the hoop from the senior today. He finished with 17 points. That is your drive of the game. Now let's hear from the head coach, Dan Hurley.
You know, I just generally, you know, I think pleased with, you know, with getting a win, you know, getting a comfortable win. Just kind of being able to handle our business. I thought there were, you know, I really liked how we guarded early. Like they were having like long possessions of offense, and we guarded like really responsibly and with integrity. And I just felt like we had too many like giveaway possessions, like where we just mentally just shut down and gave up like a. It's like we either played like really good defense or we gave up like an embarrassing basket, which was, you know, very frustrating at times. I love the way we shared the ball in the first half. I like the pace we played at. You know, obviously I love what Josh gave us. And I thought Tyler's first half, Tyler's a guy I think who's trending up right now. Really hoping he can carry it over to that next level competition that's coming. Obviously, you know, Christian's efforts on the backboard are really key to this team because of our lack of physical presence on the defensive glass, especially. I thought, you know, Jalen was incredibly efficient. Brendan had some real good moments in the first half, and you know, it's good to get Yaqua and Isaiah, 2 guys who've been dealing with a lot of injury stuff, some more minutes out on the court. You know, and then Al, just happy to see Al running around out there. My whole thing, I think he's been kind of pressing. I think there's a guy that hasn't played basketball in 3 years, and I think his expectation was he was going to pick up right where he left off. He's going to be a work in progress the whole year. You know, he has really, really special abilities. He's just been getting real frustrated with himself the last couple games. So it was good to see him have some joy, have some fun in the second half there. And then just last thing, you know, Sid Wilson's now eligible moving forward here for the Lowell game. So his suspension has been served, if that's the proper. Was that what was said in the press release? Thanks. All right.
Questions, guys?
Just, you know, the overall scoring balance, you got to like that, I guess, you know, pretty much a hallmark of the year for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, especially, you know, listen, for us to win some of these high leverage games that we've got coming up, like, you know, you may need 25, 28 from Jalen. You know, you may need one of those explosive nights from, you know, from a couple of our key guys. But, you know, in these types of games, these are the ones where you really got to kind of show balance. I think on good teams, you know, on good teams, different people step up and play well. On nights where other guys aren't taking advantage of their minutes, and you know, just to get 5 guys in doubles, I think was good for us, and we would have had more. You know, if Terran makes free throws, you know, he's another guy that would have been in doubles. We would have had 6. We would have had 6. So you know, I was just happy with the way they responded to our message of passing the ball more.
Coach, you've won the 4 games against mid-majors by an average of 20 points. Winning the games you're supposed to win, how important has it been not just to win them, but to win them convincingly?
Yeah, I think that's you know, in these types of games where you know, where you have the better team, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, we haven't done anything that we weren't supposed to do today, or against Moorhead or Cornell, and like you know, my mindset is I coach these guys so hard coming into these bye games that, you know, it borderline ruined Thanksgiving for everybody, you know, because you got to keep them on edge, you know, because there's such a tendency to relax. So, you know, but we've done nothing. We've done nothing the last couple of years. We've done nothing this season to warrant us overlooking anybody.
How much more of a killer instinct do you think they showed today, putting UNH away in the second half?
I thought it was better, you know, but it's like when it got to 25, you know, we're talking about in the huddle, right, that this has got to go to 30. You know, it can't go back to 22, you know, or 19. And I still think that there was some, you know, residual of that today. You know, they, you know, partially has to do with your opponents. We also, too, like, we probably could have scored 105 today easily. You know, we missed some really good threes, you know, some inside-out threes, which is just a function of shooting in a place that you don't practice in a lot. So for us, you know, like we've got to find a way either with the schedule of the building or, you know, it's tough with the class schedule with guys getting them. But we've got to find a way to get these guys more comfortable shooting in here right now. It's almost like a road game for our opponents and a neutral site game in terms of the rims, not in terms of the fan support, because I know we've got a sellout coming probably next weekend. So, but these guys got to get comfortable shooting in here.
Dan, you mentioned Tyler Pollard trending upward. What do you think is behind that in particular? I know you mentioned him being quiet earlier in the year. It seems like he's maybe coming out of that a little bit. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, he's talking to me a little more during the day. You know, he's an understated guy. You know, he's got a real sense of humor if you get to know him. I would just say, like, he's, you know, he's getting fouled. He's getting to the line. He's more decisive. He's more, you know, shot ready. And you know, we'll try to save a lot. You know, listen, with his length and his shooting, it's a real weapon for us. You know, so you know, I just think that, you know, it's all about confidence with him. It's all about, like, this new staff building a relationship with him so that, you know, he knows we believe in him. And obviously he's getting a lot of minutes on the court to get comfortable. But he's making jump shots. He's getting in the mix on the glass a little bit, slashing a little bit. But he just seems to be involved in at least a couple more tough guy plays.
You know, with Sid having so much time out, how do you kind of work him back in at this point?
I mean, listen, Sid's, you know, you know, we didn't stop the season waiting for Sid. You know, Sid's going to have to earn, you know, his minutes in practice here. Like we literally, you know, as Quentin understands more of the defensive concepts, but you see what type of, like, you know, I don't know, like maybe like a record for rebounds in 3 minutes there. But, like, we do have depth, and he's got to carve out minutes and opportunity for himself in practice. So, you know, that's something that is probably he should have been thinking about in the last, you know, week. And now, like, now that he's eligible, you know, he's going to have to earn it in practice. Like, he's going to have to, you know, kick Tyler's butt and get after these guards and fight his way onto the court.
Yeah, Dan, with the returning players, they seem to really respond to your coaching. When you were coaching at Wagner and Rhode Island those first years, having players that were not yours, was there anything you learned coming into this experience to really integrate them into your system?
Yeah, I just think that my approach as a high school coach has really helped me in terms of, like, just developing a buy-in quickly, just because I take a high school coach's mindset to coaching my college guys. I spend a great deal of time with them. I'm honest with them. I'm the same guy every day. They hopefully see the care and the passion and the obsession that I put into our program, into their careers, into their development. And you know, and obviously I make the conditions very difficult for them in a practice setting. But you can see on game night that I'm, you know, I'm kind of with them, and I'm supportive of them, and I'm emotional behind them. So, you know, like, my teams have always run through walls for me, and you know, I think it's just because I learned from, like, one of the great coaches and my father. I had to develop that bond with players. It's all about relationships.
We just heard from Dan Hurley, who gave us a little insight into his coaching style, a lot of which he said he took from his dad, the great Bob Hurley Sr. What do you think it is about his coaching style that's been so effective with this UConn team?
And his dad was in the crowd today. His parents are in the crowd today. And, you know, and Danny's right. I mean, his teams have always had a great relationship, player relationships with him. But, you know, I think it's because they respect what he believes in. I mean, he pushes his teams extremely hard. My favorite part, though, was we all know about the emphasis on defense, but he talked about defending responsibly and with integrity today. I mean, he takes defense as serious as our country's national debt. I mean, let's be honest. This is how important defense is to Dan Hurley. So the guys are buying into this culture.
Yeah, and he's talked about those lessons on the court, you know, extending outside of the game, which is important with so many college players. And he's talked a lot about developing that killer instinct. Closing out games strong has been so important to Coach Hurley. What did you see in the way this team kept the pace and energy in the second half, and why is that important moving forward?
Well, you could see they're starting to buy into that mindset of not relinquishing leads. You heard him just say, hey, when the lead got to 20, we wanted it to go to 25. When it got to 25, we wanted it to go to 35. And this is what Hurley basketball is all about. And listen, you're going to be in situations to where the box score doesn't go into your favor. With Dan Hurley, he doesn't care about the box score right now. He doesn't care about the opponent right now. This is a week-by-week approach to get this team to be playing their best basketball come American Athletic Conference play.
Saw a lot of good things today, Vin, but Dan Hurley made it clear that there's still some things that he'd like this team to work on. So more ahead on the People's United Bank postgame show. We'll wrap things up and get you ready for the road ahead when we return. Not done yet.
The UConn.
Today's Player of the Game is presented by People's United Bank. Christian Vital doing a little bit of everything on Saturday. Along with his 14 points, he added 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 nice steal to cap it off. Vital with his first double-double of the season, your Player of the Game. And let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the UConn men. Their next game is Tuesday against UMass Lowell. Coverage begins at 6:30 right here on SNY. A big matchup in 2 weeks against 14th-ranked Florida State. That game in Newark at the Prudential Center then. And that will do it for us. I'm Justine Ward alongside Vin Parisi. Once again, be sure to tune in Tuesday at 6:30 for UConn's next game against UMass Lowell right here on SNY. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us.